Hello everybody and welcome back. Thank you very much for joining me. My name is Deborah Hatswell and you're listening to BBR Investigations. Tonight I'm chatting with a wonderful gentleman named Michael. He's an urban explorer, has his own YouTube channel and he lives in my local area. And he's had some really strange experiences in some of the places you'll heard me speak about before. And he actually scares me by the end because one of his strangest experiences happened on the land at the back of my home.
I've had a few potential sightings which well, a little bit odd to say the least, and then we've had a few more auditory things, more sort of than visual.
So when did you first start to notice something was strange?
I believe it was around 2012,
Right.
about, say, probably late March going into July, same year.
Yeah.
Well, I was up Rivington,
Right.
up just past the barns, and as I was walking up with my friend, I noticed there was like a sheep laying down in the field.
Right.
And so obviously I've climbed over because it was covering over that way anyway, over the fences. The rest had scattered, but that one didn't move.
Oh.
So as I've approached it, I've seen that obviously it had either died and then maybe scavengers had been at it or it had been killed. There was a bit of like wool all around it, but there didn't seem to be any proper injuries apart from something that ate, all the flesh off its face.
Right. That's interesting.
Yeah, I found that a bit peculiar at the time because, I mean, it could have been a scavenger, but it was a bit of the unusual. Then it seems to be like every weekend we went up in 2012-ish with my friend from like late spring onwards, and we'd always encounter bits of like bones or, lots of flesh just from, I say, sheep or any other animals in the area. It was like, I said, the second week we found another one, but it had been consumed. It was just a little bit of the skin and other bits of flesh and the skeleton. This one was a bit more later in the summer. Obviously, we'd come across a few strange bits of bone laying about and everything, but at that point, it wasn't anything weirder than the others.
Yeah.
But we came across, it was at the top barn, I believe it's called, at Rivington.
Mm-hmm.
And we were walking just a couple hundred yards up from there, and we came across this horrible smell. It was like, what on earth is this? And we kind of tracked it down to this gate which goes over into like a bit of stream and a little bit of woodland away from the main footpaths.
Mm.
And as we were walking up, we tried to track it down and we got it again. And it seemed to be, I'm not too sure if it's a deer or maybe a lamb. Well, it had obviously been killed, but then it was just been completely skinned and just left there. Obviously to rot over the weeks, I suppose.
That's really unusual, isn't it? That's really unusual.
Yeah, that is the weirdest one I've seen up there with that. And of course, in between that, we were camping up there, I'd say once every couple of weeks, up in Wilderswood usually.
Yeah, I know that very well, yeah.
Yeah. So we'd park at one of the two little car parks that are down there, and then we'd go up and we set our tents up in the day. It was probably 6:30, 7 o'clock, so there was no issues there. I went to sleep later that night and woke up in the morning to find out directly in the middle between us both, there was like a little, it hadn't come through any of the tent layers, but like there was like an object sticking up through.
Oh, right, yeah, under the tent.
Yeah, I was like, that's a little bit odd. At that point, I was like, what on earth's that? So me and my friend got out and we've lifted the tent up a bit and it appeared to be like, it was definitely a bone. I'm not sure of what animal it was, but it was just stuck there like a small leg bone.
Right, yeah.
In the middle. And it weren't there the night before as far as we was aware, because we put it out and it was perfectly flat.
Yeah, you'd have noticed, wouldn't you? You'd have noticed the bump in the floor even. Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely, because it was quite protruding quite far. So it was. I'm not too sure how it got there or when it had happened in the night, but it's like some things. It's quite a large tent as well, so I can't imagine someone's managed to kind of push underneath without any of us feeling it.
No, and you'd have heard them walking in, wouldn't you?
Oh yeah, definitely. So I don't know what's gone on there, and obviously around the corner from that, as I've got up in the morning, there was a rather large bit of feces as well, but far bigger than I know any creature could have done.
Right,
Uh,
right.
which makes me obvious. That was the last time we camped up there for quite some time. I'll put it that way.
I know the wood you're talking about, and I've slept there a couple of times in the car with my hubby, top of George's Lane. And I
Yeah.
actually ride past that. I ride at the farm that's just on Matchmore.
Oh yeah.
I know that area, and I'm absolutely fine in it until about dusk, and then it has a completely different feel. And that woodland is the only wood that my dogs ever refuse to enter.
Mm.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
took him.
it's intriguing that, isn't it?
Yeah, he's used to sheep, he's used to horses, he's used to all the normal, he wouldn't, he lies down actually, if there's sheep around, because we're on lower barn and upper barn. He'll lie down, he knows he's got to lie on the ground if there's sheep about. He's a really well behaved dog, but he won't go in, I call it Wilderswood, he won't go in there. He just refuses to go in.
Mm.
Only time, he's only 2, but he's a big dog, and it's the only time I've ever heard him growl really low. And that to me tells me that he's frightened of whatever that is, because he would otherwise he'd make a big noise, like a big kerfuffle, wouldn't it? And it's more and put him back in the car and took him. There's quite a number of quite frightening reports around Rivington, in all honesty. The sheep field's right next to Wilderswood that now got the horses in. I think it was 2020. They were full of sheep, but there was 15 killed, big ewes, spines twisted. No, what I would class as like sign of a predator. So no like dog marks where they've dug in, or if a domestic dog's run around in the field, they make a right mess. Nothing like that. Like you, strange bones that were stacked up or placed within the wall. And a couple of the ewes had the spines twisted.
Ooh. Yeah,
Decent
that's
meat.
one I've not heard of before. So.
Yeah, and like decent parts of the body where you'd think, right, if it was a dog or a big cat or a human, you'd take the decent meat with you if you were a poacher. That kind of meat left on it, and the fleece left behind as well. So I can't think of anything that feeds like that in nature that would be up there on the hill.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking was weird, especially with that, like maybe a small deer or a little lamb, but it just seems pointless for anyone to go to the effort to catch it, skin it, and then just leave it there for no reason.
You see, that's it. I was thinking exactly the same thing. It just seems to be something that's killing for enjoyment.
Yeah, that's it, which is very rare within the animal kingdom, as we know. So.
Well, exactly that. That's the worrying thing, isn't it? We've had reports of what one lady described as a bear man almost. That was feet tall, completely covered in hair. Definitely human type body, but completely covered in hair, up near Rivington Gardens.
Yeah.
And it isn't just Winter Hill and Rivington, it kind of spans out from there. So if you look at like Wigan or Padiham, whatever way you go, there's strange reports of either like a black dog, an upright dog on 2 legs, lots of UFO reports and paranormal reports, obviously. But quite a couple that actually involve, like I say, like a large bear man, as pronounced with a snout. Yeah, it's quite worrying. I don't know why I spend time up there, Michael.
It does make you, once you come to the realisation of it and become aware, it does make you very cautious with how you step up there, give it that.
Yeah, it definitely. And it has such a feel to the place, doesn't it? It's an amazing place to be when you're up there.
Oh, it does, you are. It's funny you should say Wigan, because I had not me personally, but my friends, I'll have to try and get the exact location of him, but he was coming back from, I'm assuming he's been on a night out somewhere in town centre, and he was walking back towards Ince, I believe it were.
Right, yeah, I know what you mean.
I'm not sure which park he went through, but he says early hours he just felt he needed to relieve himself, and as he found this, I guess it was like a little. It would have been locked at night, but maybe a little area for toilets in the park. So he's decided to go around the corner there, and he just got this feeling, just don't go around. And he heard like a deep guttural growl, similar to what one of my accounts will be in a minute. And
Oh,
he soon backed off from there and then just carried on his merry way till he got home. But he says that's never left him, that.
no, I wouldn't imagine he is. But tell him when if you speak to him, he's not alone. I'm not sure if we're dealing with a number of different things. That's my feeling, that there's a number of different things going on, because he's definite big cat behaviour.
Yeah, that's true.
You got 22 reports in Bolton alone, black rod, 22 reports of a large black panther, and that they just radiate out. And when you look at the land, Michael, it's pretty much green belt for all his homes there. There's a lot of nature reserves. A lot of them old pits now are filled with water and stocked with fish. So you got like the Wigan Flashes, Pennington Flash. You can actually manoeuvre to Winter Hill and back. If you wanted to get, say, from Deep Pit, you can go from Deep Pit all the way to Winter Hill without being seen. And
Oh yeah, it's more than possible.
pitch black out there, but like, was the growl the first thing that you heard? If you don't mind me asking, what clues you into this isn't normal? This isn't something that's wildlife that I'm used to.
Yeah, I think that really topped it off, the growl. That sheep just dying in a field like that. That pricked me up a little bit, so to say. But hang on a minute, something's a bit odd. I mean, obviously anything can die in natural cause, and then scavengers will feed off what they can get. But it was just continuously finding bones for no reason, and that one with the camping, that's what really kind of set it off going. But that growl, that's a good few years later. It would be about 2017, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
I still do. I do urban exploration, so there's a barn there. It was near where the little tea room is.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Lower Rivington. Yeah.
And it's been renovated now, the barn across the road, but it was empty at the time, quite derelict. So I pulled up onto the drive in a sense, left the headlights on because it was quite late at night, and we got over a little gate. We were walking up with camcorder, and as I just peered around, I went to my friend and said, "Oh, your door's open, we're in here." So I was just about to press record as we were taking a few steps forward. And then that's when pretty much similar, I guess, to my friend. It's just like, only thing I can compare it to is, I can put it like if it was a concert and the big bass or the speakers at the front.
Yeah, I know what you mean. You feel it.
Yeah, it just came straight through the ground up into the body, and it was quite a strong feeling. But whatever it was, no, it didn't show itself. I just got the feeling of not to run because it might be chased, but to get out, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Give that fear, which is very rare up there. So obviously I just walked off back over the fence and into the car. So, but whatever it was, it never showed itself, but it made itself well aware.
Yeah, you've got close to something, haven't you?
That's saying maybe it was with some young, or it was near.
That makes sense to me. I mean, we have to take that on board. If what we're looking at is something that's flesh and blood, something that can be tracked, then they've got to have young, haven't they? They've got to.
Oh yeah.
They've got to keep that DNA clean.
So that's true. You're right. Though. It didn't sound like any cat that I've ever known, and obviously I've heard them in the past. I've been around birds before, and no issue. It didn't seem anything of that nature.
That's it. You're not you've not nipped up from London for the weekend and heard something and gone, you're an outdoors man, you know what you're doing. You're used to being in abandoned places. So if what you're noticing is strange, then I need to take note of that. Because you're not the type of lad who's just going to see a bone and overreacts and jumps immediately to dogman or a wild man.
Oh no, definitely not. It's like I said, the first thought when I came across it originally, I'd like very peculiar back in 2012, but it didn't. That never really crossed my mind at the beginning. It was just for things can die and things scavenge.
Yeah.
Obviously, the pile of bones everywhere was a little bit of an eye opener, but I didn't put too much onus on it. But it was really started obviously on that final camping trip. Really, well, one of the final in that sense. But then things, because it went a bit quiet after that, I didn't really put any notice into anything. But it was right. I think when it really kicks off, like I say, is with that growl. That's when it really peaks up. And there's been a few occurrences like that. There's one that happened in Delamere Forest.
Right.
There was
No.
that was again with urban exploration. I had quite a few events with that, but that's pretty much all I've got from the Rivington side of things, because I've not been up there since then properly for for proper explores and walks and that.
I get you. Yeah.
But I will start going up there again.
To put your mind at rest on that one and just give you a bit of validation to that, there's a report from two lads about 12 o'clock at night, and they come off across the sheet that said its rib cage. It was still steaming. Rib cage completely torn open. They heard a growl, and they both felt that if they run, that they would have been prey. And he said that the growling kind of followed him back to the car, the pair of them back to the car, and they got in the car and they drove down. And it put them off going back for a bit. I mean, they did eventually go back, and it put them off for a bit. But I said to him, that's understandable. You know, it's bound to shake you up, that. And it's pitch black up there. It's not like the street lights, is there, or anything like that. And then, remember the Jubilee in 2012?
Why?
They like the beacons, if you remember. They always like the beacons, don't they, when there's something on?
Yeah.
And there's a young lady who lives at the bottom of the hill, and she has her horses up on George's Lane. And they were up on top of White Coppice. And there was her and a friend. And she said, Debbie, it was absolutely ridiculous. We went in there, up there in flip-flops, and we should not have done it. She said, and we stayed too long. So coming back down, we've got two dogs with us. It's pitch black, and we're both in silly shoes. And luckily, there was a guy there with an head torch on, and he walked down with him. And she said, as they were walking down, they heard the dogs just suddenly went on point. They stopped and went on point. And her dog was growling, and they heard a growl that was returned, and they saw something jump over the wall. And she said it was definitely on all fours, but it bounded over the wall like it was nothing. It was just so fluid, the movement of it. There was other people up at the time, and in another group that was up on White Coppice was a lady that she worked with, this lady. She said, on Monday morning when I go into work, my friend said to me, did you experience anything strange when you were up there the other night? And she said, well, funnily you should say that. Yeah, I did. I honestly think something followed us back down to the car, and the dogs kind of alerted. Why? And she said there was 12 of us in her group, and they were walking down the other way out of White Coppice, and the lad at the back said, hey, I'm not messing about, something's following us here. And she said, pitch black, and obviously you're staring at your feet because you're worried about falling. So what we're dealing with, Michael, same time of night, there's got to be more than one, because both set group have gone, you know, one's gone to east, one's gone to west, and they've both been followed down by something.
Yeah, there's definitely a family unit or a pack of them, whatever it is.
Yeah, there's got to be. And then there's a chap who was out and just walking his dog, just generally walking his dog, and he said that something growled at him out of the dark, and he felt like he got too close with the dogs, whatever it was, kind of thing. But I haven't pulled up in a car park in Rivington yet, and I always say to people, oh, I'm a paranormal investigator. Have you ever witnessed anything strange around here? And someone's always got a story to tell you.
Well, there most certainly is something out there that we don't know. I mean, at the beginning, like I say, I was totally skeptical, you know, but as the years have gone on, there's something that can't quite be explained, that's for certain.
There isn't a typical witness. People, ordinary folk like you and I, are seeing things out there. And now reporting them, luckily. But honestly, you're in places where you think if some odd's going, if you're urban exploring, you're out there on your own, aren't you? Well, you're not on your own, but you get what I mean. You're not with a crowd of people.
Oh, no.
And we don't know what's on the land there. We don't know. We haven't got a clue, have we, really? I mean, how am I trying to put it? I don't know if what we're dealing with is just a completely flesh and blood creature or something that's dimensional. I haven't got a clue. Just because I saw it doesn't give me an insight into that. I just don't.
Oh, no, you're right there. There is possible that it's interdimensional as well. or even again till a proper specimen's captured, we'll never know about it.
That's the one. That's my attitude. Until we sit down with them, we just got to take the date if it comes in, haven't we? We've got to make a note of what's happening where, and we don't know what they are really until we actually sit down with one and they tell us. Delamere hold for you, Michael? What happened at Delamere?
Like I say, there was an old, I believe from my research of it, it was a Jewish school, and they moved it back up to Broughton to be closer to their communities now. But I went to explore that before. It's been turned into, it's currently in the process of being made into houses, I think now.
Right.
As with quite a lot of things in that area. But this was about 2018, and we've been there a couple of times. And my friend has, on the first night, as well, I'd gone back to get the car up because we had to park in the lane a few streets away.
Mm.
That was dark enough as it was, but as he was coming out, he saw with what he thought was, if it was a security guard, it was a very old-fashioned one. It seemed to have like an old Victorian lantern.
Yeah,
And it didn't acknowledge him at all. It just carried on walking, even though he was quite close. It just walked and walked and walked. But obviously, fear took over him, and he legged it in better terms and back to the car. But that was just the beginnings for that, because we put that behind us and we went back again because we wanted to finish it all. And it was a couple of weeks after that event. He was finishing off doing some photography on the top floor because there was only like a little part of it had a second story to it, and I thought, well, what I'll do is I'll just wait for him. And the inner door to the classroom was locked, but the window and the frame was all destroyed.
Yeah.
So I climbed in there and I just thought, I'll sit here and I'll just look out towards the woods. It went down a slope, and I would say probably a couple hundred meters down into where woodline would begin. I was just sat there. I was just viewing through my footage on the camera that I'd filmed through the rest of the explore. And I don't know how long it had been there, but I just looked up. I saw this pair of red eyes just staring directly opposite me, but obviously down into the woodline.
Yeah.
That creeped me out entirely, because when I come to look back at it now, I thought, if it would have been, there might be horses roaming around there, or definitely deer. I don't know any that could match what looked like level to me whilst going down a big slope into a woodline that far. Could it have been an unnaturally big, say, owl that was just in the tree itself, staring back out? But why was it exactly level with me and not? If it was another animal of prey nature, as soon as it realised that I'd shone the torch on it should have had quite a long beam torch back then, and I'm certain it would have scarpered, but this seemed to just recede back in, just so I could still see its like face and out and eyes.
Right.
But not enough to get an outline of it, but it was smart enough to just withdraw a bit back as I shone the light on it. Which, again, it is very peculiar, but I don't know, whatever it was, it gave me this dread that if it comes forward, I'm looking for a better term, because I couldn't go back.
Yeah.
The door was locked. I'd have to go out towards it.
Oof.
I mean, luckily there wasn't much more time before my friend came down, but he had gone by then.
Yeah.
But that was probably the scariest one, with the exception of that growl, because it was physically there.
Yeah, exactly that. And what was it?
Yeah, that we'll never know. It's obviously I've got my own theories to that, but just the fear of it, it's the fact that it never shifted apart from going a bit back outside of the torchlight. But it shows at a level of pretty good intelligence, to be fair, in my opinion, to not reveal itself in full. And obviously with that it was exactly level with us, so it knew where I was all along. It wasn't like it was just trotting through and it had just peeped up, oh, who's that over there, and then carried on like most animals would. It purposely sat there to stir us out, really.
Well, I was thinking that it's not typical animal behaviour, is it really? It was almost a standoff.
Yeah, it was in a way, and then it only disappeared after a few minutes once. I say my friend was on his way down, maybe it had noticed him walking around with his torchlight on the top floor as well. Who knows what attracted its attention, because I was in pretty relative darkness where I were. That's what makes it even more scary. 'Cause the only thing that would have been there lit up really was the viewfinder on my camera. Because all my
Oh,
torches and everything was off at the time. So
yeah, exactly. See, no head torch on or anything like that, no.
no, that was all turned off because I thought what I'll do is I'll preserve any battery because we had another building to do just a few miles up the road. So I wanted to save everything the best I could.
Yeah.
I've got spare camcorder batteries, but torch wise. Obviously, I didn't want to make any presents away, just in case anyone was coming round. I could hear them before they'd see me. You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, exactly. I get you. I'm forgetting that you're in you're out there exploring. I'm thinking you're in a bigfoot like me.
You never know one day at the rate it's going, it probably will. But it's
Exactly.
yeah, it is obviously as I get more and more explores, and that'll be happening. But that was the only one properly I've had up Delamere in that sense.
Mm.
But I'm sure if I spent more time up there, I'd certainly encounter more.
Yeah, I would imagine. I would imagine so. Yeah. Quite a few strange canine reports down there, up on two legs, down on all fours again, which is similar to Rivington. On every place I look at now has a dogman report or a really spooky, scary animal report. The red eyes that you mentioned, that's mentioned again. Wigan, Rivington, same thing. Charlie, the red-eyed thing, as they call it. And I
Yeah, it's
don't.
peculiar, and I wouldn't have minded that one, but I hadn't even had my torch shone on it by that point. You know, it was just naturally red-eyed.
Yeah. What is naturally red-eyed though, Michael?
I can't place it on anything, not that I know of it.
No, neither can I. And obviously, you can't blame it on a light source because you didn't have a light source on it. So,
So it's way down in the hill, 200 meters away, probably at best, realistically. So
mm, mm. There's a couple of wild campers that I know from, and they'll either be out there or out on the peaks. And a couple of times when they've gone for a pee, and said that they've seen eye shine within the woodland that's basically eye to eye with them. One guy just trying to zip himself up really, really quickly, and he said it took a step towards him, absolutely terrified him. And he was the one who went into the tent, and he said the next day his kettle had been crushed as if something had flattened his kettle.
yeah,
And there's another guy out on the peaks, and he said to me, whatever it was, Debbie, it was an arm. It was an arm that went between the ground sheet and the ground. And it absolutely terrified him. He jumped out of the tent and ended up screaming and everything. The farmer trucked him off the land. He thought he was drunk. And he said, Debbie, it wasn't. He said, I heard it walk to the tent, whatever it was. And he said, I'm lay there, absolutely crapping it. And he thought something was going to come bursting in the tent. And he said, an arm, I could feel it with an arm, went underneath and lifted me. And it just kind of like growled at him and took off again. I'm not gone into that area. I thought that was a bit, that's what's happened. That's a bit crossing a line that, it's not frightening to humans, then, is it, if it's doing that?
Oh, no, definitely not. And maybe that's a similar occurrence, but what obviously didn't wake either of us up was that one up Wilderswood. Something has managed to get directly underneath in this dead centre of our tent between us to stick a bone there for a laugh, whatever it was.
Without waking you as well.
Yeah, that's it. And it was thoroughly tied down as well, so it'd have to, especially if it's as big as it seems to be.
Yeah.
It's some right good manoeuvring to get in there. It's not like I can sleep quite heavy, which is fair enough, but my friend's relatively light sleeper, and he was confused as me.
Yeah, exactly. You can hear the tent anyway, can't you? You turn over, you hear the tent. It's one of them things. I just think there's loads of people who are experiencing this, but because we're all scattered all over the country and we're not talking like this, I don't think people realise just how many people have experienced these creatures, I shall say. There's one guy I'm working with at Wigan at the moment, and he's absolutely terrified because he said he started hearing growls around the house, like the back fence, stuff like that, which is just frightening. I had a look and he's on Greenbelt land, and I think that might have something to do. And you can get from his house all the way up to Hindley, where there's another lady reporting the same thing. And once again, it's on that corridor, that same corridor that would take you down to Dunham Massey from where we are.
I've heard reports in the past, mainly Americans, but they can follow you back to your house. Obviously, even more realistically, if it's you live on green beltish land, it's
That's it.
obviously
Yeah.
it'd be tricky if you lived in the middle of a town or something. But
Mm. Yeah. I
certainly if
thought
you live,
I've seen prints, me. I've never seen any prints throughout that Winter Hill or anything like that. I haven't, and I don't think they've got the it's not the right real kind of texture for leaving a print kind of thing, if you get what I mean. But I
mm,
have seen a print close to home, and that was Greenbelt land. My house, that was the end, and then there was just like the railway embankment, and then it was just fields, and they just run to Wigan. There's a lot of farm fields on it and stuff like that.
yeah.
A lot of wildlife on it, luckily. But yeah, my daughter followed them back, and they came right to the back fence. I don't live there anymore, luckily, but I didn't like that. I didn't like that at all. That was like, no, that's enough for me. Yeah, I didn't like it because obviously I don't know what it is leaving footprints, even if it's a human. That's freaky. That
Oh
some,
yeah, definitely.
yeah, and that was my feeling on it, and I was like, no, no. Weird, strange bangs out there at night and stuff. It was just getting really, really shy. I'm glad we moved in the end, to be honest.
I can understand that. It's like even in my hometown, I've had a few weird experiences that I can get into.
Right. Yeah, yeah. You tell me about whatever you want me to tell you, whatever you want to share with me. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it was. Oh, we'll be going back to probably say the mid of last decade, so 2015-16. I relatively quick one, obviously. I was going down North Road or Platt Lane, as it's probably better well known to
Yeah.
most local.
Yeah.
But
Totally.
as I've looked out the window, again, it's right not far from where they've just built some new houses now, so they'll be being occupied soon. But there seemed to be some strange light formation in the sky.
Right.
Again, being middle of the night, I couldn't really make anything out. Plus, it's a bit too quick of a road to to be looking at for too long. But that's always left a mark on me. It's out. I could never fully explain that. I mean, of course, I've always been out at night, and I'm a night delivery driver as it is now. So I- I've seen more than my fair share of odd occasions. But it's everything I could explain away to being whatever it were,
Mm.
except that one. Um, that was unusual, but probably by far the weirdest. Because at this one I can't pin on anything. It was last year as well. It were probably about April time. Surprisingly sunny day as well. And I'd gone to Cutacre Park in Overholton.
Yeah, I know where that is.
And there's an old ROC bunker there from like the Cold War days. There's a couple of old abandoned farmhouses as well. But we explored the farm and we tried to get in the bunker again. Because I've done it before, but we wanted a proper film of it.
Mm.
And someone's locked it up again. So well, he says, "Oh, let's go to where that other farm used to be," and I'm assuming it's been demolished now because we couldn't see anything but foundations. And but as we've looked up over, I'd say it's a good few hundred meters, maybe a quarter of a mile away. There's like a hill, just not a big hill, but probably a little bit of a rise. It would go back down, I would assume, into like the Tilsley area.
Yeah, yeah, it does still there, Jim. Yeah.
Yes, and I'd been through the year prior, and I've seen people up on that hill, so it wasn't anything unusual. But whatever this was, it dwarfs whatever they would have been,
Right.
and it seems to just be static. Like people when they walk up, they don't stop; they just carry on up and over.
No.
There's no reason to stop there really. It's not high enough for a decent view on anything, and so they just carry on walking. Maybe they come from the new industrial park over back home. It's a relatively quick walk there if they do, and
So I know
yeah,
Kusai back of my hand, yeah, yeah. And you get like weekends, you'll get a lot of dog walkers out and stuff like that. But yeah, it seems to be people with their headphones in. Just
yeah,
kind of
that's pretty much is what you'll see, like you say, but. With this one, we just froze on the spot because it was there. It weren't looking in any direction, well, to the east, I suppose, towards the industrial centres, but it hadn't been looking our way or anything, but it was just frozen. It wasn't really massively built from what I could tell, but it was tall. Or
right.
maybe just because of the distance away, I couldn't see any sheer bulk on it. But But whatever it was, it then just started to move, but at a well, normally it would take a good 10-15 seconds for someone to transverse that bit of hill. It did it within a matter of three or four steps, so a couple of seconds. That's the only time I've ever genuinely run from a creature. And my friend there, he'd spotted as well. We just went nah, and we belted it back up the path, past the little RLC post, under the gate, and back to the car. Thankfully, it hadn't followed, and maybe it was chasing someone else, or just going for a run itself. But whatever it were, I don't know. That's the only thing that's put that true. Obviously, I've had that fear when I had that growl at Rivington. Obviously, didn't feel too happy about the eyes in Delamere, but
yeah, seeing something's different, isn't it? Very different.
That's it. I think with the Delamere one, as scary as it was, there's nothing I could really have done about that. Like I say, if it had come my way, the only option I've got is to go towards it, so you're trapped anywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
But with that one, he had the opportunity, and normally I wouldn't. I'm very well aware running just causes even more problems.
Can't tell you how much scared me, you know. That, do you know Cutacre? That land on the other end of it is my back garden that I was talking about. I live down where the ponds are down at the bottom of it.
Ooh.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I'm like, oh my Lord. We found a structure once, you know, and it wasn't there the day before. Kota found it. She actually FaceTimed me and said, "No, have you seen this on back fields, as we call it?" And it was like it wasn't a bivvy, like a bushcrafter make, or, you know, a decent A-frame shelter or anything like that. It was square, and it had been done with a lot of vines woven in it. So it looked like it had been there an awful long time, and nature had just kind of taken over it. And when I went to go, I didn't have my camera on me or anything, and I said to her, "I can't get down today. I'll go back down tomorrow." And I went back down, and I couldn't find it, and it just wasn't there anymore. And it's quite creepy, that land, for me. That was when you said Cutacre, I thought, oh no, not my Cutacre. Yeah, Cutacre was my back garden. And the railway line splits it, if you think. It goes at the back where Aldi is now. That used to be the old mine, like the slag heaps, as they call them. But it gone to nature. We used to call it the slacks. The slacks.
Oh yeah,
the slacks, and that's gone now. That's the wind farm and everything. I could go and have a drive down. I don't think I'm going to though, Michael. Wait till I tell my husband that one. I'm going to say, oh no. I know. I had a kind of like, I said, I like to go in blind. So Mark said to me, "Who are you talking to at 7?" I said, "A chap called Michael," and he went, "Where's he from?" And I went, "Honestly, I don't know, and I don't want to know till I talk to him, because then I'm not going in with any preconceived ideas." But when you said Cutacre, I was like, oh no. Crikey. What colour was it? Could you give me a colour? Was it different colours? What? Give us a description of it, if you don't mind.
I'd say it was double. Well, maybe not quite double, but certainly stood out above the height of a normal human would be. Where I would say it was approaching probably 8.5, 9.
Right.
It was huge compared to almost anything I could ever think of before. But it didn't seem stocky overall. It still had a bit of build to it, but it wasn't overly muscular or anything. Maybe it was a younger one, or maybe it was starved. Who knows? Yeah, quite athletic build. It weren't skinny either, but obviously it weren't chunky. But I'd say it was either a very navy dark blue, or maybe like say, it was something around that colour wise. Maybe the reflection from the sun changed it a bit, but seemed like a very darky grey, a very dark blue kind of colour.
Right. That helps. Oh, frightened me then. I mean, not that frightened that I won't get over it, but it's just like, oh, that's a bit of serendipity there. Because obviously I've been working the Wigan cases this week. I've been talking to all of the witnesses so I can get everything together for a video. So I've been planning where I'm going to go, because obviously what I'd like to do really is speak to the witness and then go out there and stand there and say, this is where the witness was, this is where they're seeing it, this is how tall it is. So very rare you get to be able to do that. But with the Wigan ones, I thought it's ideal. It's 2 minutes down the road from.
It was perfectly sunny day. It was unnaturally quiet for people walking around. That's what probably made it even more worrying.
I know.
Every time I've been up there, there's always been, like I say, I've been around that corner before from the post, and there's always been a few people traipsing up the hill, or even the footpaths closer, and no one obviously bats an eyelid that you're walking past, even if I'm in the abandoned farm sheds. No one cares. But that day was unnaturally quiet and devoid of people, and I can see why now.
No, I know what you mean. I can see why now as well. Places are different at night, aren't they? In the day, the birds are singing, it's lovely, there's people out and about. When you get to dusk, just most folk go in, don't they, and plug themselves into the TV, and you don't really see. We've been up angles like a million times, not saw anyone other than the cars, other than people in cars driving up and down. You don't see a soul after about 9 o'clock at night. Yeah, people are not out there walking the dogs, are they?
Oh no, very rarely. As I say, what I can do, obviously, I'll send you some of them pictures from Rivington, and I'll get onto Google Maps and I'll just kind of circle where roughly me and my friend were stood as we saw that thing up at Cutacre. Alright, yeah, no worries. I say the only thing I got to, what I will finish on with that, but without going into any other stories, is I don't hear it that often, but my friend does because he's a lot closer to that side of town.
Yeah.
Still in Aberdeen, like, but he'll sit there because he tends to be up quite late in the morning.
Yeah, no.
With window open and everything. So, but he can hear, and it's not fireworks, he says, but it's not every night either. But you just hear like a series, you're like a very shallow bang, but it sounds like it's coming not too far away, but certainly at a distance.
Mm.
And certainly not gunfire, and it's not fireworks like he says, but it's certainly explosions, and it does kind of match with the old mining history of the town. Perhaps there is still some old mine shafts down there. We know they obviously had the collieries disasters, and
yeah,
is there something that's trapped and maybe oxygen gets in occasionally and causes some explosions or chemical reactions? Who knows?
I know there's seismic meters down there. And honestly, when I first moved around there, probably about 97, 98, you could feel thuds, and they were definitely to do with the land. But later on, much later on, a few of the neighbours reported that they were feeling almost like a vibration, beds and things like that. And I put it down to the pump, because there was like a water runoff that went under our house. So we had a pump, a sub pump that would clean it out. And I put it down to that. I really enjoyed chatting with Michael. And he gave me some clues, I think, into some areas that I can look into next, in the hope of expanding my research out across Winter Hill and Rivington. If you want to check out Michael's channel, I put a link to the description below. Go and watch his videos. I actually enjoy them. They're quite good. And if you've had a report in the area or anywhere else and you want to let me know, you can find a link to most of my sites and my email address also in the description below. And I will be back next week at the same time, same day. Good night, everyone.